So we're going to do a little bit of a demo on some different skin tones here. So we're going to do a white skin tone on the left and a black skin tone on the right. Have some reference pictures. I chose these because they both have some similar photo lighting to them, some similar stage lighting, colorful lighting, where they're a little cool on one side, more amber on the other. So I like to begin by adding in some of those lighting colors first, because I know I can paint them in a little bright, knowing that when I glaze the local color, the skin tone color on top, it'll sort of marry them together. So I'm gonna keep swatching on the clean paper here so you can see what colors I'm adding. And so you see sort of how many different tones it takes to make a skin tone. I think we think of people as like one flat color, but actually skin tone is super variable. We tend to get warmer areas and cooler areas depending on where blood flow is, how light hits. Everyone has a cool tone or an undertone to their base skin color also. If you've shopped for foundation, you know this. There's more yellowy, more greeny, more blue, more purple, more pink. So the person we're working with has a pretty cool skin tone, very, very pale. So it takes a lot of the color is going to show through. It's nice to have a reference image or look at if you're drawing for a rendering. I often go ahead and either cast it myself, put like a person in their photo from research, or if it's already cast, make sure you've pulled up the actors so you can actually make it to kind of match their skin tone. Specifically because if you're designing colors for them, things like that, how that color fabric, that color clothing is going to bounce off them is really important. So while that side over there is drying with some of our underpainting of our light, we're bouncing to this side and we're doing there's a purplish cast light. It's very, very soft showing through, so we're not going super dark with it, but this will add a nice amount of warmth as it shows through any layers that go on top of it. This still is from Issa Rae's show Insecure, if you recognize it. So we're painting both the cool tones and the warmer tones. I'm still leaving some white in areas that are highlighted down along the nose, a little bit across the eyes. And pretty low saturation in areas that we want them to be paler later. So now that both of those have dried down, we're going to start putting in some of the warmer tones, the purpley tones you're seeing sort of in the middle here. Very similar purple to the one we used on the left hand or on the right hand, but this one is warmer. It's got a little bit pinkier hue, a little bit more red added to it. And then letting it get closer to that cooler purple as it gets closer to the blue tones. So you can see that especially with underpainting, as you work up, it sort of looks terrifying. It looks really vibrant, really, really bright, kind of terrifying. But know that as we continually layer more layers on top of it, we're moving towards the more muted local tones, and those are really going to unify it and bring it together. This is also very true in markers, if you've ever worked that way, or in glazing acrylics. So I'm making sure I'm leaving a little bit of that brighter yellow showing through, which is why I was picking up with my rag so that we get that highlight on the hair. Moving back to this section, especially on the side that's got the amber light on it, which has more of our bright light hitting it, we're wanting to add a little bit of warmth. So this is a kind of a reddish hue added in. You can see it kind of swatched. It's a little bit pinkish. We're also going to use it to do the hair, because you can see where the hair gets thinner as it moves towards the light. You can see through it a little more. It bounces more light then. So on the side we have the purple light starting to deepen some shadows. So I went ahead and did the first layer of glazing on these so that you don't have to watch it like 3 times. You can see that I've created some local color and just glazed right over all the colors underneath them, but we'll go over that again. So we're starting to add these more true to life skin tones and hair tones. And the underpainting just shows through a little bit. It affects the layers that go on top of it. One side's always going to be warmer, one side's now always going to be cooler, but I am also still mixing in colors. So this is a very purpley, deep color that I've mixed with a little bit of our localized skin tone color, which I created using blue and orange, and then added in a little extra red. Over here we're going to mix a little green and orange to create a nice mid-tone skin tone, and a little extra yellow there because we're working on top of this more amber area. Oop, that part wasn't dry enough to do the blues yet. You can see as you glaze over the areas, they just sort of unify. That blue's really gotten calmed down just from going over it with that neutral mix we just made. Finally getting to where we can start adding in some details with higher contrast and with a smaller touch. So another glaze over this. This is with a raw sienna mixed with just a touch of green in it, so it's got a nice warm cast. And then deepening those purple shadows with a little bit of a mulberry tone. They still look terrifying right now, I know. They'll come together. So I'm not using pure black really on anything. There's just a lot of purple, there's a lot of blue that we're deepening with. I'm mixing neutral blacks because you almost never see that pure black, the color of like your ivory black or your lamp black that you bought. That's just really rare to see on people unless they're being really heavily shadowed. So by mixing your own black, you're getting like a softer tone for your shadows. Remember, you can make black by combining any of your complementary colors, so straight across your color wheel that we did. I'm now going in and taking a little bit of a yellow, a little bit of an orange, and bumping up some of those warm areas so they show through a little better. Continually bumping up our contrast and our saturation. As I've painted this one, the outside shape of the face has gotten a little bit distorted, so I'll show you how I'll fix that when we do the final take here. So these have dried down. I've gone through with just a little bit of marker and started to add a little detail, but I wanted to show you a little bit more detail of how you can mix so many different tones with just what you've got. So that's just yellow, and then we've added a little bit of purple and it mixes out to this, right? So we add a little more red. Now we have a super peachy skin tone. Pull the same color out, add just a drop of blue to it, and we get a nice darker skin tone. Add a little bit more orange into it, and now we've got a warmer skin tone. So you can really take the same mix and bounce them around to find what's closest to the person you're working with. Using a pencil, I just used a white gel pen to do the little dots in the eyes for highlights. Pencil helps just firm up a few of these edge details, add a little texture back in. When you're drawing hair like this, the really straight hair, make sure you think of it as like chunks and pieces and locks instead of all as one big piece, or trying to paint every strand. This is about when I realized that sheet got distorted as I was painting. Sorry, I was trying to go fast. So you can always use a fine tip marker. We're gonna go through ink techniques. I'll upload that on Friday after or during class. But a little bit of ink technique is such a nice controlled way to add your details, especially in high saturation areas, so it's not gonna bleed on you. I fixed that cheek by going through and just adding a wash there, haha. But you can see that you can look at the swatches around it, you can see how many different skin tones you really are able to make with just your primaries.